Hello everybody, today I'm going to be doing a guide on how to avoid the Civil War in Kaiserreich Kaiserredux. So if you guys don't know, Kaiserredux is basically like the Road to 56 for vanilla. It's a submod for Kaiserreich, and it's pretty cool. I mean, if you look over here, there's a lot of things significantly different than the original Kaiserreich. For example, you got Italy still like this, France is red, the Tramageur is still pretty big, and all these other things. In particular, you also got here, you got Obama, who's in Mau Mau and stuff, all that stuff. But basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and, I don't think in Kaiserreich anymore that there's a way to avoid the Civil War. Either way, you're just going to have to end up fighting a Civil War. But nevertheless, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and show you, I believe there's 6 ways, 6 ways for you to actually avoid the Civil War, and underneath 5 different leaders. So I'm going to be showing you how to get that through this video. This video is also inspired by Conquering History Games. Shout out to his channel. He makes good guides on Kaiserreich and Kaiserredux, and it's pretty interesting. So let's get started. So for the beginning part of the United States, set it up any way you want if you're going to avoid the Civil War. But in case of all things go wrong and you end up going to Civil War and you're in Iron Man mode, I recommend doing this. And then your units are here. In case if you want to play as the United States underneath Douglas MacArthur. But that's just the scenario. So as you see, I haven't picked my national focus. I could choose War Department expansion and as well as the U.S. Navy. I could choose both. But basically, what we actually want to get done as soon as we can is the Gardner-Wagner bill. It doesn't have to be in this case for all of the candidates to avoid the Civil War, but it will be in one particular. But for this case, I'm using one save. So I'm gonna wait for a day, wait for the beginning events to show up. So you get America 1936, and now you can see Gardner-Wagner bill is open. So this is basically a bill that's going to help fight this depression. Very summary, very short. Now, there's a thing about it where if you get this done, there's either 2 ways you can go. The bill fails or the bill passes. For one particular candidate, you need this bill to pass. And I'll get to that event in just a bit. So, when you get the event, crime spree sweeps the nation, you basically got to go for increased funding. It is going to result in a political power loss, but that is a good way on how you can actually resolve the, you're going to need increased FBI funding eventually. So this event is really crucial for whatever happens. So basically, senators are going to break ranks. You got Socialist Party members, you got Longists or American First Party members, and you got the Wagner supporters, senators, and all this stuff. Now you get 3 options. You can either pledge support for Wagner and the establishment senators, so the Democrats. So you're going to get popular support for Social Democrats. Force and compromise with the American First Party, so basically compromise with you belong, or with the Socialist Party of America. If you want the best answer where you wanted to pass, I would highly recommend you go for American First Party or the Socialist Party of America for this option. But that doesn't mean that the Wagner bill is going to have a pass. It's just going to be less likely for it to pass. If you're ever concerned about the National Unity Agreement, it's basically forming like this coalition. I don't think it necessarily matters. It only matters in the final end of the election. But if you want to, you can endorse the agreement or not. It's not going to affect your run eventually. So if you get the Gardner-Wagner bill passes, that's really good. If not, you're going to have to reset and do a different one. In my case, I was pretty lucky. I went for Gardner-Wagner with the establishment, and I was able to get it. But that doesn't mean you're going to get it 100%. Sometimes you're going to have to go down to the American First Party or the Socialist Party, and sometimes none of them do that. And if that's the case, you're going to have to reset your game because it's fixed from the very beginning of the game, and you can't really change it. You can't go back and save it over and over again. I got lucky in my case, but it may not. But others might not be as lucky as well. So when you get this done, When you get this done, first off, I'm gonna do this. I'm trying to play my game as well. But basically, when this happens, you have to try and get this whole thing accomplished. Go down the whole path. And, once you get this done along with all this, you won't have to deal with more instability. You don't necessarily have to do it. As long as the bill passes, you should be fine. So when you come to the event, Republican nomination disagreement, you're going to get a decision between two candidates. You can either go for Charles Curtis or you can go for Alf Landon. It doesn't really matter, but if you want to have more variety of events, you can choose Curtis. Charles Curtis is the first Native American to be vice president, which is a pretty good achievement. And in our timeline, he was vice president of Hoover, and at this point he would have passed away because he had a stroke around this time. Or you can choose Landon, who ran against FDR in 1936 in our timeline and got his butt kicked. To me, I want to choose Curtis because you get more options eventually, and I'll show that in a second. So here we go. Curtis himself is brought into question because he has typically bad health because, like I said, he dies around this time period. So you either get three options, and we are going to go through only two of these options because two of them are really the same option. For this case, just for the legacy of the original Kaiserreich, we're going to go for Charles Curtis. But basically, if you want to switch your candidate to Alf Landon, or you can even choose Herbert Hoover, you can basically have that. So if you want to, if you were Curtis and you went to Landon, you can do that. Or if you want to stick with Curtis, or if you want to stick with the incumbent, you can do all those things. But for right now, we're going to keep Curtis. I'm also here to bring out that in the Democrat nomination is John Adams Gardner. He'll be one of the key figures in defusing the crisis. So you either got, and I'm letting you know that unfortunately Huey Long, Bill Haywood, and Alfalfa Murray are unable to actually solve the crisis. They're actually going to start the Civil War. So if you want to avoid the Civil War, you're going to have to go for establishment candidates. So thus far we've looked at Alf Landon, Charles Curtis, Herbert Hoover, and John Adams Gardner for available candidates for defusing the crisis. The last one we'll look at is George Norris, a very well-known candidate, who basically is, he's basically this progressive. He was a long time a Republican, and now he's deciding to run for president. It's a pretty, so there you go. He's the last one that you're going to see. So now I'm using a different save file for this, just because I want to get this through. So now we're at the election. So this is all the candidates that you can obviously choose from. The three main candidates that you have to choose is either Charles Curtis, where's the other ones? George Norris, or John Adams Gardner. Do not choose Bill Haywood, Huey Long, Alfalfa Murray, or Deadlock. Because what's going to happen is it's going to eventually lead to Civil War, and there's no way of turning around. While these other ones, their Civil War is possible, however, it is not guaranteed. So for this one, we're going to start with Charles Curtis. Charles Curtis is going to be the first guy we're going to go for. So once the presidential inauguration officially begins, this is when you can actually begin doing the national focuses to complete the avoid the Civil War. So here we go. We get the Activate Mission Act quickly. We stop there, and boom, you can actually start working on your focuses to actually get it done. So if we go over here, so right here we get the center holds. You wait a day, and then you get started, and then yep, just do that right now. Now the next thing you do not go to reassert business. Do not counter the Klan, because that's going to eventually lead them to actually secede, and then everyone else falls apart. Go to home rule negotiations. So I think, so I'll cut to the next point. So this is where Republicans will eventually announce negotiations. So this is where it will begin. You will invite Haywood. He says, I survived a heart attack and handle this. That's kind of a reference to what Floyd Olson says in the original Kaiserreich. And then after this negotiations begin, you can either have... So what happens next is that Bill Murray, Alfalfa, and Huey both want to join the negotiations, but you're going to have to say they have no business. So, the desire for autonomy. Do not go for hair when it's a better offer. Go very well. Next up, they want a funding demand. Do not go for disagree. You're going to have to concede with that one as well. Also, what's pretty interesting is that, well, so if you go for the Alaska option, I'm just going to choose this focus. So, once Alaska wants to become free, if you go for what has America have done for us, it won't happen if you were able to defuse the crisis. So, Burr's demands, you're going to once again select agree. Because once again, disagree, they're not going to be happy, and it's going to lead to civil war. So, so next up, the radicals are upset. Radicals are once again upset, so, over all this. And you're going to say, we agree, but a bit too much. It's going to lead to some chaos. So this is where MacArthur is worried about is worried by the agreements he made, because it sounds like he's going to cave in to the mob of the radicals, is what MacArthur believes, and that it will completely ruin the American democracy. So he's asking for a compromise in return. So you have to choose very well. If you say it's undemocratic, cave in, he will stage a coup. So go for very well. And then you get the issue of militias. So you're going to have to make them agree to it, or if you disarm them now when they least expect it, they're going to be ticked off because they didn't get anything off it. So have them agree. And there you go. Compromise has been achieved. And I'm not going to read this because I need to get this done, and also I have other things to do today. So, compromise achieved. America's safe through compromise. And once you get safer of America and the syndical strikes are removed, you will get the super event. And that basically means that the Civil War is avoided and everything. So this is the first one that you can do. And just like that, you get stability returns to the United States. I don't have the song on because I don't want to get copyrighted. But this could work. So Charles Curtis could do this, or Al Flanagan can do this. So either way, you can actually choose. But the only thing that makes a difference is that you get the old guard. So Charles Curtis's path is right here, or New Republicans where they go here. That is basically what this is. So Al Flanagan and Charles Curtis could work in this path, but right now we got a few others to go for. So back at the original save, that was Charles Curtis's path. So now what the next one we're going to do is we're going to be going for George Norris for our next candidate. So there we go. We got George Norris. And we're going to be showing down his path. So now you get George Norris's nomination, and also you got Theodore Roosevelt's son, Quentin Roosevelt, who is his vice president, which is pretty interesting. But George Norris is elected, and necessarily both Huey Long and Bill Haywood are actually both okay with George Norris because they have very similar ideas with one another, believe it or not. In fact, you don't even get the New Year's strikes from Bill Haywood. And to prove that, see, nothing has been done here, so that's basically what's going on. George Norris basically, he gets it pretty easy. Kind of like Obama in a way, but I'm not going to get there too much. Enough with modern politics. That's lame. It's lame. I'm talking about politics back here, because the politics here were much better. But that's the point. So anyway, so we go here, find me liberal. This is where we begin. Now, you need the SBA, American First Party, and the Socialist Party of America's support before you can move on and actually begin working on this stuff. And then you will begin your first 100 days. So this will happen kind of recent, so he proposes intervention. You can either, so you're gonna have to make a promise to bring fraudsters to justice. This is the first one you're gonna go for. And there you go. Just like that, you have their support. So, here we go. Once again, New Hope for Alaska. It did not happen, so I'm just going to go for Little America. So, doing this. Oh, that's the Asian city vote. They try to make Russia. It's okay. So, once you get this done, you can either go for emergency intervention, which for some reason it will already move New York strike, but you don't even have it, so it's fine. And strike the White Leagues. Now, the thing about this is that you need to get these both done by May 1st, 1937, because that's when your first 100 days will end. And when that happens, they'll be locked out of your focus tree, and you're unable to fix anything, and there's probably going to be a civil war that comes out. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. So we're going to go for a first emergency intervention. I'll come to the next event, because this one actually takes a while for some events to fire. So I'll be pausing right now, even if the event is tomorrow. But I was right, except by 2 days. So they both arrive. In this case, we're not going to argue. They have both things. If you send them home, it's going to be civil war. So you're going to have to put, that's how it will have to be. You're going to have to take the hit. And there you go. That's where your first move will officially begin. Another thing to worry about is Alfalfa, of course, is heavily conservative, like strictly conservative, like very bad. And he's basically going to denounce the progressives. He is going to be your main problem throughout the portion of you're trying to fix to defuse the crisis. But nevertheless, you can get through it. So once again, the relief bill will pass. So that's going to be pretty cool. So eventually you get to the old Democratic Party is infuriated, and then this is where the White League or the KKK starts coming out and starts stalling the Democrat Party. So then MacArthur comes in and he's like, okay, so we're gonna send some National Guard and stuff. You're gonna go and follow his suggestion. If not, you get manpower, but basically the ODP is gonna become more powerful. They're gonna basically start a civil war. So go and follow MacArthur's suggestion. So for this one, the White League strike across South Carolina, and then you basically have Coleman Blease, who's affiliated with the Old Klan. He's the governor of South Carolina. For this case, you're going to have to only focus on the White Leagues, because arresting Blease is not really going to necessarily do much. So go for this one. So once you finish both economic intervention and strike the White Leagues, that basically means that you can do all these other ones without having any considerable problems, because as you can see, they don't have any dates on them. So once you get these done before May 1st, that means you are able to, continue on your path and actually go down the square deal, or fair deal, I should say, and get the popular vote, all this stuff going on. So first off, it doesn't really matter which you can go at this point. I'm basically just going to do this one right here, because I can. It really doesn't matter, like I said. So after you get this, Liberia declares independence. Doesn't really matter, just let them go by. But it's up to you. You can actually, if you want to, you can actually set an invasion plan to take over Liberia. But it's up to you. Increased president is requested. If you have to do what he does, that's basically not going to result, and it's going to lead to terrible things. So you're going to have to go and increase his budget to basically deal with the ODP. So after a long time, you're probably not going to get any events, but as long as you keep going down your focus tree here, in particular here, you should be able to get all the way down. In my case, I've gotten all this down. I got no events whatsoever for my nation, which is pretty interesting. But nevertheless, just go down this path. I'm almost done. But you eventually get this event called National Debt Growth, which means you're going to have to keep going. You also got other people who are pretty upset about it because, well, you're overspending. But nevertheless, it's what you're, that's one of the events you're going to get, that's probably going to happen, just letting you know that, hey, you're getting dead from all this. So, yeah. And finally, almost a year before the election, you're going to get Fate of the Island Militias. Again, I barely got any sort of events, but that's basically what happened is now George Norris has saved America and all that. So, there you go. You will get the super event. There you go. Remain dominant. And just like that, Civil War is over. This one's one of the more chill ones. It's one of the more easier ones as well. It took me a long time for me to actually complete. You know, because it's October 14th. It's probably one of the longer ones. And perhaps one of the more boring ones, if you can argue. But that is George Norris's way of avoiding the Civil War. So now we got we got two more guys to deal with and three more options to choose from. And finally, well, not finally, I shouldn't say that, but next one up on this list, we have John Nance Garner. So now John Nance Garner is going to be our next president who we're going to be dealing with. We're going to be choosing him. And, of course, people are upset about him because, well, he's an austerity guy and he's not a progressive. But basically, that's what's going to happen. So now, we're going to show over the path of the original Cactus Jack. And here you go. This is where John Nance Garner is inaugurated as the next president of the United States. So now you'll begin his tree. And I'm going to show you what to do. So, you now have Cactus Jack who's going to be in charge. Wait for a day, of course. There you go. Now we come in. Alright, so the very beginning thing, don't go sweep away farm tariffs. Do not go down this path. You will go down this path eventually, but right now you have to deal with the others. So you have to smash the radicals and undermine the populists. So this is where you will begin your path. So John Nance Garner is going to go hard line on the radicals, kind of going hard, you know, not necessarily for compromise. He's not necessarily meant for compromise, but that does not mean that the Civil War will happen under him. So this is how you will avoid the Civil War. We will win. Also, in case you're wondering, if you get the Act Quickly event, it doesn't, don't get too stressed out about it. As long as you go down the focus tree down here, it should be able to disappear and you should be fine. So eventually the radicals are starting to get upset and they start causing strikes and all these other things. They start, you know, doing all this crazy stuff. So this is where you begin to send in you begin to intervene with the military to actually deal with the strikers. So you get three options. You can focus on the strikers, you can spread out your forces more evenly, or you can follow George Marshall's suggestion. Which I'm not going to really express myself, but as long as you go for Marshall's suggestion, that's probably the best path you can take. So if you get resistance rising in Illinois, you have to give them back what they need. Do not fall back. That means they're going to take a foothold and they're going to rebel. So take back what they need. That's probably one of the events you take. Tremasure died. I don't know. Anyway, undermine the populace, and then you go for the next interesting event, which is the Director's Boys. So eventually you'll get this event, J. Edgar Hoover's Proposal, where basically you can investigate all these people, Huey Long, Bill Haywood, Alfalfa Murray, or you can even go for two other radicals. You can go for a Klan member of the KKK, D.C. Stevenson, or you can go for the Communist Earl Browder, which many of you guys are probably are more familiar with than D.C. Stevenson. It doesn't really matter, but most likely only one of these guys will actually have the option, which I'm going to show you what happens. So in my case, I struck lucky and I chose D.C. Stevenson, and it turned out that it worked because this guy has done some really terrible things with alcohol, drugs, and relationships with other things, and it's just not really good. So if you arrest Stevenson, you're going to get stability, and the national populace are going to get hard, even though I've already cracked down on them pretty hard enough. So, but it doesn't work all the time. Most of the time, you won't actually get a good result, and instead, you're going to lose political power, or stability, I don't know which. I just chose D.C. Stevenson. And the other one, you get the event at the same time, you get dealing with the steel belt. Basically what happens is, you can either intensify the occupation or you can negotiate for better wages. So in this case, you're going to negotiate for better wages. And there you go. The Steel Belt and the South have been officially pacified. And after choosing negotiating with the wages, that's how you do it. And just like that, you are able to be the savior of America, and the political crisis ends. Wait a minute. Sorry, hang on a sec. Once again, I'm using my save file. Oh no, I already silenced it. Okay, I think we're good. Yeah, we're good. Okay, so there you go. So that's how you do it. That's how you prevent the Civil War underneath John S. Garner. You are still an unpopular president. You are still pretty unpopular for the actions you did, but the Civil War is over. Now, as you can see here, as long as you go down this path and get it done first, you should be fine. Do not go down this path until after the Civil War is avoided. Go down this path as much as you can, and once you get at least to here, the Civil War should be avoided. Just make sure that's okay. The sweep and the tariffs, though, wait until afterwards. You get all this done, and then boom, the whole thing should be not a problem anymore. So that is John S. Garner. At this point, I'm already going for 26 minutes. However, I have one more case to show you, and it's honestly like an Uno reverse card for history. I don't know. That's what I put it. So here it comes. So once again, I'm going back to the Gardner-Wagner bill. So once again, in order to get this one solved, you are going to need to have the Gardner-Wagner bill pass. How I recommend this is that at the very beginning of the game, wait a day until the this is what I said, but wait until at the end of the first day and you get the beginning event. Click on the event, and after that, you are able to choose the Gardner-Wagner bill. Get this done as soon as you can. Do not, and I say it again, do not go for War Department expansion. Do not go for U.S. Navy or any other focus at the very start of the game. Wait until the second day. Get this one done. Because if you don't, hear me out. If you don't, what's going to happen is that Hoover, despite the fact you might pass the bill, Herbert Hoover, which is going to be your next guy we're going to go after, will not show up as a present figure. Just be cautious. So once you get, and it has to pass. If it doesn't pass, then Hoover is not going to become president, or I should say, re-elected for a third term. So go down this path, prevent the Civil War. That shouldn't be a problem, but as long as you get hurt, but the event should come up very shortly. So we're back at the Republican nomination disagreement, like from earlier on when we chose Curtis. Once again, choose Curtis. If you choose Langdon, then the event where he's sick, like we showed earlier, will not show up. So you have to choose Curtis. Have to. Also, somebody died. That's pretty terrible. So now Curtis's health is brought into question. Like last time, we chose Curtis. But don't choose Curtis, otherwise you're going to keep him as the nominee. Do not switch to Langdon, otherwise he'll be the nominee. Go for Herbert Hoover. Now, you're going to get a lot of bad events in the next few months, which I might show you. But that's basically what's going to happen, is that Herbert Hoover, everybody didn't want Herbert Hoover, and you're going to have him again. So here we go. Draft Hoover. That's going to be pretty important. Also, Kaiserredux, can you please have Detroit win at least? I mean, I know you like having Toronto win in the Stanley Cup all the time, but come on, you need Detroit to win. I'm not a Detroit fan. In fact, I'm their rival. I'm a Blackhawk fan. But come on, at least you gotta have some. You gotta make sure that Detroit has the chance of winning, so we get that fleet political power. Come on. Once again, FBI is pretty violent in some cases. It isn't entirely, because Herbert Hoover has two paths in particular to deal with the rebels. But this is basically what you have to do: send in the FBI. Always send the FBI because it's going to be pretty important in the future. Also, apparently I was wrong. A little wrong, but it's nothing much. It's not going to harm anything. But basically, you're not getting a single fan for Herbert Hoover, because although he would eventually win the nomination, not even the press is going to be heavily involved in knowing about his campaign, because they believe he's going to lose. But as we're going to choose, because it's up to us, it's going to lead to Herbert Hoover winning. So I just wanted to give you that a heads up. So there you go. Herbert Hoover gets renominated, and of course, it's not going to be much press coverage, like I said. So he's basically, it's like he's not going to win at all. So there you go. But a little suggestion I have for like Kaiserreich and Kaiserredux as a whole. So let's say you have a major political party. You have a political party like Socialist Party, you have the American First Party, the ODP, you have the GOP, you have the Democrats, you have the Progressives. What if, in a sense, you could actually have an event where whoever had the majority amount of people in the party, so let's say the combined parties of Republican and with Herbert Hoover could actually lead to him winning, or with the majority of John H. Garner's part of the Democrat Party to actually take control. Like, it doesn't necessarily, it's not like event choice, but if necessarily by how much political popularity you have, that would be pretty interesting. I'm not saying that you have to do it, but it is a suggestion. So here we go. We finally get to the 1936 presidential election. And just in case, if you went for War Department or you went for U.S. Navy, in case you went for Hoover, and you want to complete this focus as much as you can, don't go do both at the same time, because believe it or not, you're actually going to have national focuses to do when you choose Hoover's third term. So, as you can see here, once your current leader, I'll show you that in a sec. But what's going to happen is you're going to get a huge stability buff, minus 100. You're going to get, a lot of people are basically going to get ticked off. But anyway, choose Herbert Hoover. And there you go. And now you have Herbert Hoover as the guy. And the next events I will show you as well, because they're all go hand in hand. Oh, there's never really like 36. Doesn't this sound familiar? Whatever, it's fine. But anyway, you get the military support and you get paternal autocrat growth, which is something that's pretty big. And then, I don't know why I came all over here, but then basically you do all these. It doesn't matter what order you do them, but basically you're going to get a massive amount of debuffs, which is going to happen. A lot of people are not going to get upset. And the worst part is that since you're the incumbent and the president before this election, you can't endorse anybody. So as you can see, everything's falling apart. Your stability is crashing down and counting. Like the Dust Bowl exemplifies. And there you go. So the minus 20% population is new direction. You get a radio announcement. Hoover fills. So first off, you now have this. You get monthly population growth, which is pretty bad. And, you know, everything is just starting to fall apart. That's basically what's going to happen. Getting a lot of events. But basically, this is actually helping you out. So anyway, as Herbert Hoover, you actually get two options for whatever you need. You have two options. So now you get Hoover fills, which once again, everything's falling apart. Right here. You either go for hardline or softline, which is the two that I will show you. I'm just showing you these really quick, and then after that, I'll cut to the inauguration day. In fact, I could probably just cut it off, like right now. Hard Knock Live, again, now you get all the support. You get funding in Indiana. So now everybody's mad. Everybody's upset. So now you have a smaller population growth. Which stinks. Finally, Hoover's legacy is the last thing that you will see. And there you go. That's what you have to do for now. I probably would recommend going for... Navy first, because that's going to fill your time, and then War Department, but it doesn't necessarily matter. I'll cut up to the inauguration day. Alas, you finally get to the presidential inauguration, and this is where you finally will begin the rest of your focus tree to try and prevent the American Civil War. So here we go. This is what it is. Prosperity around the corner, which will happen immediately. Alright, you now have two focuses to go to. You can either go for working with Democrats, or you can embrace Marxist economics. Like every other scenario, do not go for the economic option first. You still got to deal with the crisis at hand. So you got to start with working with Democrats. I will also show you event after event and how to get the soft line and hard lines to happen. After a while, you should get down over here. Start with Hoover raids first, and then dealing with the riots. First, go with Hoover raids. Remember that. Alright, so once you get to the Hoover raids, what's going to happen is you're going to get two options. So basically, J. Edgar Hoover is proposing a raid just similar to that of the Palmer raids, which I'm going to get this set up right now. Do not go and back on your promise. That is going to lead you to actually get assassinated, and the Civil War will start. So you're going to have to authorize it. Not many people are going to be supporting it, but otherwise you die. So that's basically what happens. So when it comes to J. Edgar Hoover's new FBI, basically you have an option to either expand the FBI or you can deny the request. For the first one, it really doesn't matter that much. However, I would recommend authorizing the expansions, and then you can get both options as an available asset. So when you get dealing with the riots, I personally would recommend going, you get all these options, but do not choose. I'm sure things will come down soon, because that will lead to Herbert Hoover's assassination, and a civil war will follow suit. I would recommend let MacArthur restore order to DC, because that's probably... it has both options in it. So when you get to this event, again, I'm going to say, so I'm going to say this. I don't know if I recorded this part specifically, but I'll say it again. Make sure for the previous event, make sure you go for any three of them if you want, but not the one on the bottom that will lead to Herbert Hoover. Do the one with that says MacArthur will deal with it, because it will give you both options, and that's what I did. And here it is. This is the option. Restoring order in the United States. You can either go for the Home Rule plan or the Democrat Hard plan. I'm going to go for the Home Rule plan first, and then the Democratic Hardline plan. So there you go. Hoover is going to announce negotiations, and of course you're going to do it. I will make Cleveland's mistake. I think that's what it said. I don't know. And it turns out it's going to be very similar to that of the original Homeland Plan. I forgot what it's called. It's everything's similar. First you accept Bill Big Haywood, and then you say they have no business. And it's really similar to what originally happened, except since you have expanded the FBI, this is what you get. Basically what's going to happen is that you can have the FBI assassinate Murray and Long, or... they get what they deserve. But don't do that one, because that's going to lead to the Civil War. Order the death of them. It's going to basically guarantee happen. And then you get the Atlanta Massacre. You get the family that dies. So Murray is dead. And I'm going to keep it on the focus tree. And, of course, Huey Long dies as well. So, of course, everyone's like, oh, shoot, conspiracy. But in the end, compromise is made. And that's how you do the softline plan for Herbert Hoover. However, there is still one more option left. Of course, here comes the super event. Once again, gain dominance. But there's still one more event. This is the hard line. This is the easy plan. Necessarily for a more peaceful approach. So, it doesn't really matter entirely. But, as you can see, not much is happening next, but there is one more thing that's in particular, and it's pretty interesting, and that is called the Hardline Plan. Now, for the next part, you need to authorize the expansion. This is the next thing you have to do for Hardline. You have to do that, otherwise it is not going to work, and the plan will result in civil war. So, once again, when dealing with the riots, make sure you don't choose the bottom one. Otherwise, it will lead to her being assassinated and a civil war. I would recommend, again, to go for the MacArthur restore DC. Again, I'm saying that again. And I don't know why I keep happening over here. That's a weird thing. So I'm going to keep doing my focus. Because at that point, I believe I got all that done. Oh, shoot, I didn't. Don't do that. But make sure you get all the way down here. This is the last thing you need to do for the part. I'm sorry, I'm pretty tired. I've been waiting here for like hours. So, anyway. So, on to the next part. So, once you get to the Restoring Order of the United States, instead of going for the Home Rule plan, you are instead going to go for the Hard Line plan. Once again, once you announce Hardline plan, you will get another list of events that will happen. They will be, I think, very similar to that of John Gardner's plan as well. Military action, we once again go for a Marshall's suggestion. And since you have the FBI with you, if you hadn't had the FBI, by now there would have been a civil war. So be wary of that. I'll wait until the next event that pops up. I thought it would be like sooner. And here we go. You once again get Resistance Illinois. Do not fall back. Give them what they need, because once again we're going hardline. If you fall back, they're gonna, once again happen. And of course, Civil War. So we don't want that to happen. But if you get that event, Rising Illinois, that means you're on the right track. But don't fall back, because that's where you take the wrong road. After a while, it did take me a long time, but eventually it'll come. When you're dealing with the steel belt, once again, do not intensify occupations. You go for negotiate for better wages. And once again, you focus on the White Leagues. Once again, increased presence is requested. You once again, just like Garner, you go for increases budget. And just like that, the Steel Belt and South Belt is pacified. However, there is something else. You have saved America. Political crisis is gone. But there's one more thing that's pretty special about this. And I'll show you that in a sec. One of the things you'll get is that you get an option. You get more options to actually deal with the Dust Bowl. So you do something like the social liberals idea and all these other things. That is another factor that you will have. So basically, I'm not waiting for all these focuses to complete because they take a long time to complete. But so I decided to do the autofocus complete. It's not big, but since this is the last thing, the final thing you will worry about is Hoover's America, which basically will result in freedom nurtured. Thank you, Mr. Hoover. And finally, you get the last event. And oh god, I made the Republican Party a one-party state. It's fine. So you can actually have the option to form new parties out of this. And what you can do, you can actually form a two-party system. Give me one sec. And finally, the last thing you will get is a fifth party system has been founded, in which you get a load of extra support for a few places. And you can also choose the other one if you want, but in the end, you actually get a fifth party system, which basically changes half of your parties to progressive and the other half of your parties to Republican, which is actually pretty interesting. However, over time, they will eventually split, but then they reunite. For example, if you choose a Democrat, which I think I will show you in a sec. Basically, it changes the parties to Democrat, to Farmer Labor, and if you remain Republican, they will actually remain the status quo. I believe. I think that's what happens. Let me check really quick. So when you finally get to November 8, 1940, I decided to use a different save files for me to use this. But we're going to first choose the Democrat Party. I'm going to show you how you form that, because at that point, they're still pretty divided. So I decided to nominate Douglas MacArthur, which is pretty interesting. So, Social Conservatives. And, sorry, there's a lot of stuff going on here. So, eventually, you're going to get an event that basically reforms the party once again. I think it just says the fifth party system. So let me get to that in a sec. So after a little bit, after choose the Democrat Party, it's going to choose the fifth party system. So basically what happens is the entire party system changes. And now we have only Democratic and only Farmer Labor Party, which is pretty interesting. But, which is actually pretty interesting. So, if you choose Republican, which in my case I chose Thomas Dewey, you're going to get a new system, a new newer fifth party system, which basically forms Republican Party up north here, and the Conservative Party down here. So, from market liberal down is Conservative, from social liberal up is Republican. Also, Kaiserredux. How do you not have Thomas Dewey's photograph? Like, he's actually a pretty decent figure during this time, and you don't even include him. Like, are you kidding me? And finally, I'll show the progressive one, and that'll be the end of the video. And finally, there's the fifth party system. If you decided to choose the progressives, which you basically get this, we get progressives and new Whig parties, which is actually pretty interesting on its own, new Whig. And so that is basically all the potential fifth parties. I did not check for you to watch. Did not keep check of the market liberals, but I'm assuming it's the same thing as the social liberals version. But nevertheless, that's basically my video that I have made on the guide on how to prevent the Civil War from happening in Hearts of Hoi4 Kaiserredux. All 5 events. 6, I don't know which, but that is all I have. Thank you guys so much for watching. I might do others in the future, I'm not sure, but thank you guys for watching, and I hope this guide helps you out really well. Have a good day.